Governor does not certify the results in Georgia.
Amen.
Yes. And it's true, we had some pretty bad news, but basically expected news that the Secretary of State would move to certify the results here. But it's not over until Governor Kemp signs and certifies those results, and we are not going to leave until he refuses to certify those results. We have to have him call a special session so that they can audit this election. And they had a recount. This is amazing. The Secretary of State on Thursday said that the recount was finished and the votes go for Joe Biden. He says the math doesn't lie. The math doesn't lie. Well, the ballots lie.
Yes, sir.
They don't verify the signatures. They don't verify the addresses. If there are two votes from the same person, they count them both. The math doesn't lie.
They got caught counting Trump votes for Biden.
That's right. It has been almost every single day this week that they have found stashes of thousands of ballots. In Floyd County, in Walton County, in Fayette County, they're finding thousands of ballots, the majority of which are going for Trump. The ballots are lying, and the politicians are lying, and we know they're lying.
Yeah! Get them out of here!
And look, we've been in front of the state capitol. Maybe we've been trying the wrong approach, because clearly it seems like the politicians don't fear us. The Secretary of State does not fear these demonstrations.
They should.
Well, maybe we should start showing up to their houses now.
Yeah! Let's go get them!
And I've been hearing some people say, we were at the governor's mansion yesterday, and some have been saying, you can't go to Brian Kemp's house. You can't go to the governor's mansion. He's got a family.
Like hell we can!
We have families too.
Yeah!
And it's our families that are going to be screwed if we let them get away with this. It's our children that are going to be screwed, and our children's children, because we are going to forfeit our civilizational inheritance if we let Joe Biden get in office. So that has to be the next step. We have to hold these politicians accountable, or it will never end. Some people are talking about the runoff Senate election. They're talking about 22 and 24. We have seen such widespread and blatant fraud in this election that if we don't call it out now, they will steal every single election until the end of time.
That's right. Fuck that.
If we send a message to these politicians that they can get away with it, they will get away with it every other time. There is no 22 or 24 or 26. There is only 2020. So we have been out here for the past 3 days demanding a special session so that we can get a proper audit of these ballots. And there was some good news today. In Pennsylvania, their state legislature officially voted to have an audit of the votes.
Let's go! Yeah! Woo!
They don't need the governor for that. They don't need the state senate for that. They have called for an official audit. And if you look at a state like Pennsylvania, I don't know if anybody's seen these numbers. I saw this just today on Twitter. They are accepting a higher percentage of mail-in ballots than 2016. Much higher. Because in 2016, if there wasn't an address or a date of birth or a signature on the ballot, they would throw out the ballot. And that's the way it should be. Because we have to know that the people who are being sent these mail-in ballots and sending them back in are the actual people that the ballots are registered to.
Right.
This year, they're not discarding ballots that don't have a date of birth. They're not discarding ballots that don't have an address. They're not discarding ballots that don't have a signature. How can you know that any of these votes are legitimate if you don't have any information to corroborate them? You can't do it. And they don't know who's voting, whether it's dead people or it's people voting 2 times or 3 times, or they send 100 mail-in ballots to a nursing home and some guy fills them all out and sends them back in, some Democratic operative.
Out-of-state voters.
That's out-of-state voters, exactly right. In Nevada, it's happening all over the place. So we know, stop the steal!
Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal!
So we know there's a fraud. There's no question. And I don't know about you, but I was awfully disappointed yesterday with Tucker Carlson.
What is he doing?
I mean, what the hell?
We expect better!
We do. And you know something? On election night, it was Fox News that first called Arizona prematurely for
Boo! Fox sucks!
Fox News that refused to carry President Trump's press conference 2 days after the election.
Boo!
And we expect that from the liberal media, of course. We expect that from CNN and MSNBC and every other network. But we are the people that are watching Fox News, and they betrayed us.
That's right. Traitors!
And I'll tell you, I have been a fan of Tucker Carlson for a long time. He has said things that a lot of people are afraid to say. And he has given a voice to a variety of conservatism, which I think most people in the country agree with strongly.
That's right.
And after Fox News called Arizona prematurely for Joe Biden, I said, I will never watch Fox News again.
Yeah!
I said, but maybe Tucker is okay. But since the election, what has Tucker Carlson been talking about? Where are you?
Yeah.
The day after the election, he was talking about how the polls are really fake. Really? The polls are fake? We've known that for 5 years. We've known that for decades. The polls are fake. The polls are fake. The ballots are fake. And the ballots are what decides the election. Why don't you talk about that?
Man up, Tucker! Controlled opposition.
And last week, he's talking about how, well, the Democrats didn't fare so well because defund the police isn't good political messaging. Talking about the political messaging of the left, we're in the fight of our lives. President Trump is fighting for his life, and he is fighting for this country. And you talk about political messaging like this is some kind of political salon in Washington, D.C.? Who cares? And last night was just the icing on the cake. Last night, we have lawyers from the Trump campaign, Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell. They're the only lawyers fighting for President Trump. His other lawyers have quit. They've gone home because they don't believe. But Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, you know, I didn't like the hair dye dripping from the face. That was a little embarrassing. But they're the ones that are out there making the case for the most important political moment, maybe in this decade, maybe since World War II or the Civil War. And where is Tucker on this? Undermining their credibility.
Get them out.
No more.
Man up,
Should
Tucker.
be undermining the credibility of this fraudulent system.
Yeah.
He should be undermining the credibility of Joe Biden's false and illegitimate claim of victory in this election.
Yeah!
But instead, he has thrown us under the bus.
Right.
And now who's our new hero? Sean Hannity? I never thought I'd see the day. And I like Sean Hannity, I do. But Tucker Carlson, you were supposed to fight for us. Shame on you. It's a disappointment. And some people said, well, you're overreacting. It's misrepresented what he said. He has got the biggest megaphone in this country. Surprisingly, even bigger than this one.
Yeah.
But he has got the biggest megaphone in the country. People watch him. It's millions of people every night. He's bigger than Bill O'Reilly, bigger than ever. And at this all-important, critical hour of decision, where is he? He is not fighting for us. You could say at the bare minimum, well, it wasn't great. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. It should be exceptional at this point in time. He should be fighting for us tooth and nail because it's us that watch him, it's us that watch Fox News, and it's us that vote for the Republicans. But the point being is this, it's really not any different than what we've been talking about for the past few weeks. The real enemy is not the left in some sense. And I said this yesterday. We know that the left cheats. We know that the left lies, and they censor us, and they don't cover us in the mainstream media. And we expect that, because that's their job. They're the left, and we're the right. But what's much worse are the people that purport to be our representatives. They purport to be our leaders. They take our money and our views and they put us on their newsletters. And then they get in Washington, D.C. or on Fox News and they do nothing but sell us out.
Enemies over traitors!
And we have been fighting globalists and Democrats and leftists for a long time. But there has been a war going on in the American right for decades. And I'm sure some of you who are a little bit older than me, you may remember the Tea Party 10 years ago. And everything that happened there, where it was hijacked and co-opted. And something that started out grassroots, fighting for the real people of America, was taken over and destroyed. You may remember the Ron Paul Revolution in 2012. And they did the same thing to him. They screwed him over and they shut him down. You may remember somebody by the name of Patrick J. Buchanan. And Pat Buchanan tried to run against George Bush in 1992, and he couldn't make it.
That's right.
But this is an intergenerational struggle within the American right. It's a battle between the establishment, which is owned and controlled by the same special interests that control the left, the same open border special interests, the same big tech special interests, the same free trade and foreign war special interests.
Get 'em out of here!
It is a fight between them and us, the American people, that actually comprise the constituency of this party. And when all of this is said and done, no matter which way it goes, it's very unpredictable. It could go for President Trump. It could go for Joe Biden. It's a very dicey situation. But either way, our resolve must be the same. Never again can we be fooled and screwed over by the GOP. I'm done being a sucker.
We're done with them!
And so in that way, it's Tucker Carlson, sad to say, and it's Nikki Haley, and it's Mitch McConnell, and Marco Rubio, and Dan Crenshaw, and it's Brian Kemp here in Georgia. And I'll tell you something, Brian Kemp owes his political career to President Donald Trump.
Yeah!
Just like a lot of these people that have gotten elected in the past 4 years. President Trump has a 95% approval rating in the Republican Party. That is more than any other president in history. More than Ronald Reagan, more than Lincoln, more than anybody. President Trump won 73 million votes in this election. He is the largest vote getter in the history of the United States of America.
Yeah!
And this is the case because he is speaking to the silent majority of Americans who are done with Black Lives Matter.
Fuck them!
And they're done with Antifa.
Fuck them!
And we're done with the liberal media.
Fuck them!
And we're done with big tech.
Fuck them!
And President Trump has galvanized this silent majority. People all across this country, flyover country, in the hinterlands, in the hills, and the country. And he brought them out. And we got Governor Kemp elected. And now we have to stand out here sweating our asses off, screaming and yelling for the past 4 days for him to do the right thing. And what we're talking about is not a conspiracy theory. What we're talking about is not fringe. It's not evidenceless or baseless or contested. It's fact. Georgia going blue in 2020? Are you kidding me?
No chance!
It's impossible. And the evidence is everywhere. You can see the evidence in the data. You can see the evidence on the voter rolls. You can see the evidence in the unconstitutional rule changes made to how the election is conducted by state election officials and courts that are far outside their jurisdiction. It's everywhere. And we have to march around so that a Republican governor who we voted for, who President Trump campaigned for and endorsed, will do the right thing and stop the steal of this election. But sadly, I think that he, just like the Secretary of State, just like a lot of these other people, they are bought and paid for. They don't answer to us. They don't care about us. They don't care about what we say. They don't care about what we do. They don't care about us or our kids or our future. All they care about is perpetuating their machine.
right.
That's what the Republican Party exists to do. Do you think that the Republican Party exists to stop abortion and the genocide of babies? Do you think that the Republican Party exists to resist revolutionary social changes trying to destroy the family?
Not anymore.
Do you think the Republican Party exists to protect our jobs from foreigners, whether it's offshoring or outsourcing or mass immigration, illegal or legal? No, of course not. Do you think the Republican Party exists to protect our rights to free speech and our rights to bear arms?
No.
Absolutely not.
Protect Israel.
The Republican Party exists to perpetuate the Republican Party. The Republican Party fights and lives and dies by keeping their donors. Thank you for being here. I'd love to see the flag. The Republican Party exists to perpetuate their money machine
Israel.
and keep the dollars flowing and keep the jobs circulating between themselves at Daily Caller and Washington Examiner and Heritage and AEI and all the other Club for Growth. That is all they exist to do. It is time for that Republican Party and that Republican establishment to be swept aside and discarded.
Drain the swamp. Drain the swamp.
So no matter what happens, our allegiance is to President Trump.
Yeah!
Our allegiance is to America and Americans first.
America first! 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 America first!
And ultimately, that's what we're fighting for. When it comes to all the decisions made, in all the places where decisions are made, in giant corporations, in the halls of state governments and federal governments, you are not being put first. They are being put first. And just take a look at the lockdown. It's a perfect example. This coronavirus lockdown should be remembered as the largest wealth transfer in the history of the United States. And the wealth is flowing from your businesses and your jobs, your local small businesses and restaurants, and it is flowing all the way up to Amazon. It's being scooped up and sucked in.
They stole it from my family.
They did. They stole from our family. You're right. Like venture capitalists, like vultures. They have bought this country. They have bought our politicians. They are ripping this country apart, and they are selling the spare parts. That's what they've done to us.
Robber barons.
And you will see that happen like you've never seen it before if Joe Biden gets in. Take a look at his transition team. How many lobbyists? How many former Google employees? How many people from the major S&P 500 companies have been hired to aid in his transition? We know Joe Biden is not a legitimate president, and not just because he lost the election, but because Joe Biden isn't even mentally competent.
Boo! Get them out of here.
This guy can't even do an interview for 1 hour without forgetting his name and where he is and what he's running for.
Senile! What a joke!
He is a puppet, and the globalists pull the strings. And once he gets in, it will be a feeding frenzy for the anti-human, anti-American, anti-white, anti-Christian globalist elites that have been trying to take this country down for centuries.
That's right.
So it all comes down to this battle right here. In Georgia, in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Arizona, and in Pennsylvania. Don't let anyone tell you that it's over already. Don't let people tell you that we don't have a chance. If we didn't have a chance, they wouldn't be censoring us on Twitter.
Exactly.
And if we didn't have a chance, they wouldn't bother trying to put a stop to all of this, but they are. They're censoring and suppressing and shutting down like never before because they, in some ways, anticipated that this would happen.
Oh, yeah.
So don't let them fool you into thinking that Joe Biden has got this locked up or that they'll get away with this. They will only get away with it if we let them.
The criminals. We can win.
So we have to keep turning out here to these state capitals and to the houses of these politicians, because we need to make them feel the pressure. This is personal. Think about what has been done to us intimately and personally in our lives. The lies that they teach your children in schools, it's disgusting.
Indoctrination.
They come into our libraries in our communities with drag queens.
Gross.
In our schools, they teach your children that their ancestors were responsible alone for slavery and for racism.
Come on.
Alex is not coming.
They get your children hooked up on drugs. They send them to a therapist, and boys being boys, they put them on SSRIs and they destroy their minds, they destroy their bodies and their souls. They're taken from them.
They're children. It's children.
And if they're not put on drugs by their therapist, they're put on drugs by their peers or by pushers in the streets that we bring in from Mexico. If it's not Ritalin and SSRIs, it's heroin.
It's all over Atlanta.
They're being put on crack and whatever else. And we know it's happening.
Look at Atlanta. Oregon.
Our sons are being made addicted to pornography, and our daughters are being put up for sale on OnlyFans. And who's talking about that?
No one.
Alex Jones.
Ban OnlyFans.
Us. We are.
We the people are talking about it.
This. Thank you. Our communities, which were once safe and orderly and cohesive and prosperous, people knew your name, people were polite and decent.
Right.
It's been stolen from us. I've never known that place. In its place, we're getting the third world. They're bringing the third world here from Mexico and from China and from India, and they're rebuilding it right in your home. They're rebuilding it in your school and in your place of business.
Just look at Atlanta.
And we have to put a stop to it.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to this. If Joe Biden is allowed to get in, that's the end of political resistance. On day one, you know, they will shake hands with Google, they will shake hands with Mark Zuckerberg and whoever they need to, and there goes all Trump supporters from the internet. Yeah, good luck telling anybody about what's really going on in the country when you don't have access to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, or anything like that. We'll be reduced to going door to door and stuffing mailboxes with envelopes with the manifesto.
fascism.
Good luck trying to spread a message that way. They will weaponize the IRS in the same way that Barack Hussein Obama did 4 years ago.
They already have.
They will target our 501c3s, 501c4s, and for maybe many people don't even have non-profit corporations, but they'll then just take away your PayPal account. And they'll ban you from MasterCard, and they'll ban you from Chase, Harris, and Bank of America. They're already doing that. So good luck fundraising for anything. And then they're going to come door to door and they're going to confiscate your guns. So good luck trying to resist when Black Lives Matter is marauding down the streets and the police is all 21-year-old girl social workers and they can't protect you. Good luck protecting yourself then. And then ultimately, they're going to get hate speech passed after they pack the Supreme Court. And then to even speak or think against the system will be made illegal. And you'll wind up in a concentration camp. If you think it's crazy, think about where we are right now.
It's written word for word in the World Economic Forum.
We're not gonna let it happen.
But we're not going to let it happen because we are the American people.
Yes, sir.
And although the odds are against us, and I've said it before, we are fighting against the most powerful people in the world. We are fighting against multi-billionaires. We are fighting against trillion-dollar market cap corporations. We are fighting against all of the media and all of the social media. We're fighting against the academics and the think tanks and the bureaucrats.
And the banks.
We're fighting against Hollywood and celebrities.
And the
Fuck
banks.
Hollywood. The banks. Yeah.
And the banks. And they've got more power than us in this world.
Yeah.
But we appeal to help from the other world.
That's right.
We have God on our side fighting with us.
Jesus is king! Christ 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 is king!
Let it be known that Jesus Christ is the sovereign over all the world. In 1776, the odds were stacked against us when it was a small ragtag continental army against the largest empire of the world.